Welcome. I am your host, Samuel B. Williams. In the Middle East, Israel remains embroiled in the aftermath of its war with Hamas in Gaza, and tensions are still running high. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a stunning announcement yesterday. He intends to fire the head of Israel's Shin Bet. That's the domestic security agency. No Israeli government has ever removed a Shin Bet chief before. Move comes as Shin Bet director Ronan Bar is reportedly investigating a major scandal involving two of the Prime Minister's own advisors. There are allegations that during the Gaza war, these advisors received illicit payments from Qatar, possibly in exchange for influence or information. Netanyahu's decision to oust the security chief in the middle of that sensitive probe has raised a lot of eyebrows in Israel. Critics say it smacks of political interference in a national security matter, while Netanyahu's office claims new leadership is needed at Shin Bet. This internal turmoil arrives at a delicate time, as Israel balances between conflict and diplomacy in Gaza. On the ground in Gaza, a fragile ceasefire has been intermittently broken. Over the weekend, Israeli forces conducted strikes in northern Gaza that tragically killed 8 humanitarian aid workers. The UK-based Al-Khayr charity confirmed the deaths of its staff, calling the incident devastating. The Israeli military defended the strikes, saying they had targeted 2 terrorists who posed a threat to troops and then fired on. Additional terrorists arriving at the scene. They insinuated that militants may have been mingling among relief personnel. The charity vehemently denies that any of their team were combatants, rejecting the insinuation that its workers were terrorists. Incidents like this underscore how precarious the situation is, even as full-scale warfare has subsided. There is ongoing diplomatic effort to extend the ceasefire that largely halted major fighting back in January. Hamas officials on Friday indicated they are open to extending the truce, and even offered to release a U.S.-Israeli dual citizen hostage, along with the bodies of 4 other captives. If Israel abides by the terms of the multi-phase ceasefire deal agreed a couple of months ago. Essentially, Hamas is dangling a humanitarian gesture on the condition that Israel honors earlier commitments, likely involving allowing aid into Gaza or limiting military operation. International mediators, including Qatar and Egypt, have been working frantically to keep the ceasefire alive and broker a more lasting calm. The United States is also deeply involved in the post-war diplomacy. In a rather controversial initiative, Washington and Israel reportedly floated a plan to resettle some of Gaza's population in 3rd countries. According to sources cited by CBS News, the Trump administration, together with the Israeli government, quietly approached nations like Sudan and Somalia as potential places to relocate Palestinian civilians from Gaza. The idea would be to alleviate Gaza's humanitarian plight by moving people elsewhere, but it's incredibly fraught. Both Sudan and Somalia have denied that they were contacted or agreed to any such plan. And Palestinian leaders have called the notion of forced relocation unacceptable, equating it to ethnic cleansing. U.S. officials haven't publicly confirmed these discussions, which appear to be very preliminary. Still, the report highlights the extraordinary options being considered behind the scenes. For now, Israel is also engaging through more traditional diplomacy. It announced it's sending a delegation to Qatar to discuss extending Gaza ceasefire and advancing negotiations, a sign that indirect talks with Hamas via Qatari mediation are ongoing. All parties seem to be exploring every angle, from prisoner swaps to international safe zones, to prevent a return to full-scale war in Gaza.